before that, we watched the movie When to Meet, which
I've seen that one. That's fine.
which the producer used the Shikabata as inspiration for the movie. So that was also kind of
For inspiration for the movie, that's interesting.
yeah. He talks about it as a special feature where he talks about it, and in the movie itself, there are several pages from the Sagada which are depicted. Several scenes which are depicted almost straight out of the lithographs, and also.
I'll have to watch it again.
The family has got to open, and they're reading different parts, and you recognize the exact, pictures in the really exact.
Really, the Shikabata is beautiful. Just the artwork is beautiful. Generally, there's a metal jacket one, I think, and
I have the metal jacket, so
does
does Alan.
like a half circle one, which kind of opens up very lovely.
It's worth the time to visit the website.
It is. My professor, Rabbi Dr. Sherwin, worked on it from Chicago. So
It used to be special. Editions from the 1954, it was like $50 a piece to get this book. But now you can buy this book
inexpensively because it's now in paperback form.
But the first blue cloth edition is pricey.
It's like $100 a piece.
Right. And the metal jacket is about $100 to $120 on eBay.
And these are
the metal jacket's gorgeous.
Nice.
I really enjoy his. I find a lot of meaningful stuff in his artwork.
Alan's turned me into a metal jacket junkie.
Oh yes, I understand
So
that.
it was a very nice and our stove and oven broke down.
I did see that.
That made
Yes.
for a challenge. It was fun.
And you overcame that
Yeah, it was
challenge.
no problem. Nobody cried. It was great.
Awesome.
We had 60 people at our Seder in Atlantis. It was first Atlantis Seder for Emmanuel, and it was a huge kind of step for some people in the community to take because it would be not kosher. So we did have, despite the dropout of the people who didn't want to accept non-kosher Seder, we had from 38 last year, we had 60 this year.
So it seems to me that was a huge jump in numbers.
Exactly.
That's
Wow.
great.
And I was trying to figure out what caused it, so I compared notes with Marsha Cohn from Sinai. She said that I thought like,
They
Are
had
we
an
having-
increase.
they also had from 130 to 160 or something like that. So, and now you're saying that you had 80 also.
Yeah,
So
although
this
we did come last year too. So.
At least they didn't, did not reduce the number. So I think there is more, I find that more demand for Judaism that is not religiously attached to a certain denomination in Reno than I thought. Okay.
So wait, you say it was not kosher?
No,
Right,
right,
it
not
was at the
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
We did it.
I thought they had one kosher kitchen.
No,
They don't, and it was very hard for the ritual committee to make this decision. But
But they did offer fish, and,
Yeah, but that's what
so
we
I
have.
mean, if one wanted to eat by conservative halakha, one could still choose to do that.
But the problem is that we have, unfortunately, people who treat kashrut more Chabad way than conservative way, and unfortunately, this is the core. So this was kind of sad because it didn't look like Emmanuel said it, but it looked like
But you had a lot of
great
us and
Seder,
apparently a great time.
and
Who did somebody lead? Did
Yaakov led it fantastic.
Very
He had this clip of microphones, stand-up microphones didn't work, so we had to overcome that. And he had this something, they gave him something to clip to his tie and pocket, whatever, and he just walked. It was nicer this way because it looked like he always does it, like it's not first time, but it's first time he did Seder this way.
excellent.
And he had everybody participate, and for change, years now, somebody who sang the Manish Tanakh had a child, it was a child. That was so nice to have a child. And all our old Buddhist came, so we had like everybody who needed to go come there. So that was very
That's excellent.
Yes.
And years.
And it's very encouraging to know that there are so many people who like this.
Your kid did the same as yours, what?
Yeah, I don't have.
At your home.
Yeah, at my house. It was nice to have the children come up Friday night, that was nice.
Yeah.
6 children out there.
Yeah, little ones, and then we had the Hillel group that whatever had separated those.
So it's kind of
Yeah,
rare to
right.
hear a young kid reading, and it was for me, it's like for years that I had heard Manishtana in a high-pitched voice.
Excellent, that sounds wonderful, that's fabulous. It's nicely done. Diane, do you want to share your,
Oh, well, there were 16 people, and it was
so she's
hosted.
now talking about second night. She was
Yeah,
just
second
saying
night.
first so-
Which night do you want?
So the unique one.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
your
So
second night.
Deborah Ochtenberg, she buys the Haggadahs, and so I don't remember the name of this one, but so everybody had it. In probably predominantly it wasn't Jewish, but she's been doing it for 8 years. So it was extremely pleasant. It was fun.
Nice.
This was in Reno.
Oh yeah, it was at her
She
home.
went to a home.
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
night.
So it was at her home.
Eve?
I will talk about the second one. I went to a Chabad Seder, and it was very, very nice. There were about 50 people, something plus minus, maybe 45. And what I have enjoyed is the small interaction between the people. And then he asked to read. And his kids, I think they have 7 kids, participated and read some. And so, yeah,
Nice.
it was nice.
So this is outside of Reno?
No, this
No.
one wasn't
Chabad.
Reno.
Oh, okay.
Chabad with Rabbi Kunin.
Red Kunin, yes, it was on Saturday.
Thanks.
I mean, Rabbi Kunin's father, when I was a troubled teenager, he helped me actually.
Where?
You were a troubled teenager? That's hard to imagine.
Where was that?
What's this was
UCLA.
then? What's this was then?
But he's not a teenager now, though.
He's not.
What was also very nice, since they're from, Chabad, they recited some things in Yiddish. And I thought it was really, they have a book that has English, Hebrew, and Yiddish.
So you do like the Manashtan Yiddish?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah,
the Fear Cautious and his kids, I mean, not all of them, but the ones that know how to read it, and I thought it was kind of
The
unique.
kids read it in Yiddish?
Yes, yeah.
All
Some, not all
of
of
our
them.
children are being taught Yiddish now.
Yes, it's very true.
It's the new thing. They're trying to revive the language.
And I think it's great, I'm glad somebody's doing it. Anyway, so Mike, how about you?
Hey, I had
Your
a
first
wonderful-
night, do you
I
want to
had
tell
a
us about
wonderful time.
Sinai?
I sat down and I had this nice private Seder with around 155 people.
Okay, so,
And, the Seder moved around from table to table, depending,
Alan, would you pass down the horseradish?
it can last. And,
We love horseradish.
That was the first night, Friday.
Right, and I kind of like going to a nice big Seder like that because, you can be a guest at your own Seder. And you don't have to really, no one has to work their tail off, no one has to clean up. And I think it just really makes it nice for all the families.
Well, there are definitely people that tell off
there were, just
but
wasn't the people who were paying the
The
money.
leader was standing on a head of a, like,
Well,
Get it.
Rabbi Terry led the service.
did she have to stand up?
Yeah, she still, it was her choice, she didn't have to.
Oh,
And there were plenty of microphones to walk around, wireless to clip on and to wear. But it was her choice, to stay up there. But the microphone did move from table to table.
oh.
The Doug Goodman president seemed to show up at everybody's table when it was time for that table to read.
Nice. Good, okay, so it sounds like a productive year of Pesach, moving towards 7th day, which will be Friday, where the sea splits, right? That's the tradition. All right, moving on to our third tractate, Pesachim, we're on page 153. You can borrow that. You want to pick up? I think I borrow. Oh, let me just let's review what we're talking about. So we are under essentially we're dealing with priorities, right? So what happens if you have chametz in your home, but you want to rescue people, right? Or there's robbers or something. So what do our sages, what does Chazal tell us to do? We mentally annul it, right? They say it's similar to carrying sacred meat. If you're in Jerusalem, you've got your sacred meat, oops, you forgot it. If you pass the Mount of Olives, you're going to burn it wherever you're at. If you haven't passed the Mount of Olives, you have to go back to the temple and burn it there. So, again, if there's time to return and get rid of the chametz, so like say you're on a way to do a mitzvah, like circumcising your son, a betrothal feast, or slaughtering the paschal lamb, if you have time, return it and get rid of it. If you don't have time, mentally annul it. And what an interesting concept that our sages suggest that that's how we handle things.
What about circumcision?
So this we're dealing with priorities, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting ready to circumcise your kid, but you remember you're somewhere else. You remember back home, it's going to be Passover. You've got to get rid of the chametz. What do? If you have time, go back, remove it. If there's no time, the moil's there, Elijah's there, the Sandtek's there, whoever's there, everybody's there, right? You go forward and you that's the priority system, right? Okay. So, picking up on Gemara.
They objected. If someone is on his way to the betrothal feast in the home of his prospective father-in-law, or to establish Sabbath residence for some optional purpose, he should return at once to get rid of the limits.
Okay, so we have the Mishnah which said just the opposite.
Rabbi Yochanan said, there is no contradiction. One is the opinion of Rabbi Judah, the other is the opinion of Rabbi Yosef. For Baraita teaches the betrothal feast is optional according to Rabbi Judah, but Rabbi Yosef says it's a mitzvah.
So they're going to try to figure out, we've got two different opinions now. Do you have to go back? Can you go back? Should you go back? Those are each questions. The bride is going to come and have two different opinions about that.
However, since Rob Hitzler stated that the dispute between the Mishnah and Baraita concern only the second meal that the prospective bridegroom takes with his in-laws, but all agree that the first meal is a mitzvah, you may say that both Mishnah and the Baraita are in accordance with Rabbi Judah's opinion. One concerns the first meal, the other the second. The basis of this is the Baraita, which teaches, Rabbi Judah says, I have heard that only the betrothal meal itself is a mitzvah, not the Siddur meal, which follows.
Which is the second one.
Rabbi Yosef replies, I heard that both the betrothal meal and the Siddur meal are obligatory.
Okay, so the question is it a mitzvah? Is it a mitzvah? If both meals are a mitzvah, then there's just maybe no time to go back and remove the chametz. You have to go because it's a mitzvah. So this is the issue of priorities. What's more important than what else? It's really important because it's a Torah obligation to get rid of chametz. Must.
What is what? Which is which? I mean, is it
The simple meal is the second meal. So apparently there's a betrothal meal, at least in this time.
So what happens? The betrothal meal is where you actually propose in your family, with the family's witness, is that?
Well, it would seem, at least from my read on it, is we understand that these two are getting married. There's some traditions where they actually have the betrothal meal as a mitzvah meal, and the mother-in-laws break a plate together. So that's at least one tradition.
So the second meal would be at the other house.
Perhaps, or there's somehow a second meal, whoever is hosting. Doesn't indicate, at least, the one footnote says, gifts presented by the groom to the bride at a second or follow-up meal. So apparently...
So that would imply the first meal is at the groom's parents' house, and the second meal would be the bride's.
Maybe, perhaps.
They didn't go as a
No, they didn't, darn.
And I can see this in modern day, and the bride or the engaged, the bride or the groom talking to the prince. But Mom, you're not marrying her. I'm marrying her son.
And to imply that there's a meal means that somebody has prepared in advance and knows that it's happening, that this is an official engagement part of
And
this.
it's good.
So do you have to go back or not to clean up your comments, which is a Torah obligation? So, people.
In this talk, Rabbi Simeon said, a disciple should not venture in any way from the feast that is not a mitzvah feast. Interesting. What, for instance, is not a mitzvah feast? Rabbi Yochanan said, for example, the marriage of the daughter of a Kohen to an ordinary Israelite, or the daughter of a scholar to ignoramous. For Rabbi Yochanan said, the marriage of a Kohen's daughter to an ordinary Israelite does not augur well.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about what is important in terms of like, who should a Kohen's daughter marry? So, do you want to pick up, Judy?
What did he mean by that? Rav Hilda says he meant that she would be widowed early or divorced or childless. The Baraita says either he will bury her prematurely, Rashi, or she will bury or impoverish him. How can this be? Did not Rabbi Yohanan himself say, if you wish to get rich, cleave to the seed of Aaron?
Or in other words, marry a
Marry
Kohen's
a
daughter?
Kohen's daughter, so that Torah and priesthood may combine to produce wealth? No problem. One statement was addressed to a learned person, the other to an ignoramous, Amar. Rabbi Joshua married a Cohen's daughter and became sick. He said, Aaron is not pleased that I should cleave to his seed, and that he should have a son-in-law like me. Rav Idi bar Abin married a Cohen's daughter and had 2 sons by her, who were ordained, Rav Sheshet and Rabbi Joshua.
So they're trying to find different examples. Was it a good idea or not a good idea?
Rav Papa said, had I not married a Cohen's daughter, I would not have become wealthy. Rav Kahane said, had I not married a Cohen's daughter, I would not have been exiled. They said to him, but you have been exiled to a place of Torah. He replied, I did not leave my home voluntarily.
Okay, so could you get the footnote on that?
The
Yes.
story of Rav Kahane's flight from Babylonia to Palestine is told in Baba Kama. Early commentators disagree as to whether, despite his name, he was a Kohen. Kahana, okay.
Kohen, right.
Okay. Rabbi Isaac said, whoever benefits from a feast that is not a mitzvah feast, 34, literally optional feast, will someday be exiled, as it is said, they lie on ivory beds, lolling on their couches, feasting on lambs from the flock and on calves from the stalls. Assuredly, right soon they shall head the calm of exile.
Okay, so what's the problem with feasting if it's not a mitzvah meal?
Ostentation?
Something like that. You know, whether it's ostentatious
Well,
or just, you know, gorging oneself. I mean, certainly these were the days of auditorium, right? We know what happened like ancient Roman, Greek times.
But Amos
It
was
was
particularly
decadent, right? It was
Yeah.
decadent. It was abusing what they had.
And
So,
Amos
and
was
certainly the rabbis would say, no, that, you know, that's not a good idea. If it's a feast, you know, for a marriage or a wedding or some kind of mitzvah meal, okay, fine. But this is why they're going to come to teach this. Okay, so.
But
then you-
Amos wasn't particularly against the rich and ostentation.
The rabbis taught the disciple who eats to excess, wherever it may be, will destroy his home, turn his wife into a widow, and his brood into orphans. He will forget his learning and be drawn into quarrels. He will disgrace the name of heaven as well as his father and his teacher, bring himself, his children, and his grandchildren for all generations into disrepute.
Ouch.
What did
Pretty
they
strong
mean by into disrepute? Abaya said, people will call his children son of the oven heater. Rava said, son of the dancer, among the drinking bowls. Should I say Rav or Rabbi?
That it would be Rava, Abaye and Rava were often, they were Zugot, they were the ones who disputed, so in that case it's Rava.
Okay.
himself.
Rav Papa said, son of the pan licker. Rav Shemaiah said, son of the one who collapsed on the ground.
Okay, so you could tell what the problem with feasting was. It wasn't just they were eating, it was they were eating to excess,
Gluttony.
drinking too much, being gluttons, whatever it was. So they had pretty strong words to try to avoid this, especially among their disciples. They wanted to make sure their disciples were, on the straight and narrow.
The rabbis taught, sell whatever you possess so that you can marry the daughter of a man of learning. Then if you die or you have to go into exile, you can be confident that your children will be numbered among the disciples. But don't marry the daughter of an ignoramus, haaretz, for if you die or have to go into exile, your children will become ignoramuses. The rabbis taught, sell whatever you possess so that you can marry the daughter of a learned man. Marry your daughter to a learned man. This is like mixing the grapes of a vine with the grapes of a vine, beautiful and acceptable. But don't marry the daughter of an ignoramus, for that is like mixing the grapes of a vine with the berries of a thorn bush, ugly and unacceptable.
Okay, so obviously they have strong opinions about ignoramuses, these haaretzes, right? There was a bit, it was one thing to be poor, but an entirely other thing to be poor without knowledge. So that's, again, we're working on priorities. What's an important thing for these rabbis, for the Chazal? It's important who you end up marrying, because you want children who are going to be arguably disciples. That's what this is.
So basically they're saying Torah learned.
Torah learning is like the epitome of all. There's
even if you could only say the alphabet.
Well, that's a whole Hasidic notion that comes in the 1700s.
Right.
That's not what they would say here. They would say here that it's more important that one actually studied and learned, studied and learned, studied and learned. And there's parts of Talmud which will say whose blood is redder, who's more important on the priority hierarchical range of human being life. They would say that someone who was learned in Torah was more important than an unlearned priest. But you've got to understand, they're coming out of a situation where the priests were in the hierarchy, the temple falls, so they've got to think about plan B.
So that's why the project says something from the city members.
I know you like that quote.
Yes.
I know you like that
And
quote.
how does that fit in here?
Eve, you want to pick up what the...
The rabbis taught, sell whatever you possess so that you can marry the daughter of a learned man. If you cannot find the daughter of a learned man, marry the daughter of a man outstanding in his generation.
And according to Rashi, that means somebody who excels in good deeds. Good.
If you cannot find the daughter of a man outstanding in his generation, marry the daughter of a community leader. If you cannot find the daughter of a community leader, marry the daughter of a charity trustee. If you cannot find the daughter of a charity trustee, marry the daughter of a teacher of children. But never marry the daughter of an ignoramous, for they are an abomination, and their women are an abomination. And of their daughters it is said, cursed be he who lies with any beast.
Okay, ouch. Painful, right? I mean, not just a little painful, but like straight up painful.
I really have a very, very, difficult time with that, because you can be not book learned, but you can have a lot of common sense.
All true, although they do make provision for people who are kind and compassionate. I mean, if you look in terms of these hierarchies...
Being kind and compassionate doesn't necessarily say you have street smarts or you have a knowledge of how to do things.
Okay, so, we have a very long-standing tradition that education is really, quote, what it's all about. I mean, at least from our lineage, Judaism in general is go and learn, go and study, go and learn, right?
However you learn, go and learn. So
And
you
for
might
some
learn
people,
from
it
an
may not
oral.
be- Yeah, some people may or may not either have the capability, or for whatever reason, maybe they've got issues or concerns that don't fit into whatever school,
But they find a way to learn.
Absolutely.
Well-
And really, this is the kind of learning that they were talking about. It's sitting around the table and learning Talmud.
Mhm.
That was really where they were at with this.
There is an out for learning. The next one is community leader. I never saw this kind of hierarchy before. This is first time for me. I knew about learning. Yeah, that was the only thing actually for me. But the
Community
next one
leader,
is community leader, and the next like about charity.
Trustee.
So if you are like a streetwise, but you cannot learn Torah, that's fine, as long as you use your street smart to support your community. On one way or the other, if you have money, you do money. If you have leadership skills, you do leadership. And I never saw this kind of thing. I saw it, the only thing was valued as education, but apparently they had the
They
same.
do have a number, and you look at the choices that they make
Yeah.
in the order of priority. And certainly this isn't all this isn't the be-all, end-all list. There are many lists, like often. But in terms of someone who's an Am Haaretz, it's really like not a desirable category. So, but they're also talking to the quote, their own, the people who study Talmud. That's who they are directing their comments to. They're not directing it to people who are Am Haaretz or out on the street or doing whatever they're doing. They're talking about the people who are within their fold, who are working on the process of learning.
If it wasn't for fools, how would the scholars know what not to learn?
Eve, you want to pick up the next paragraph there?
It was thought, Rabbi says, it is forbidden for an ignoramus to eat meat, as it is said, this is the Torah for animals and birds. Whoever learns Torah may eat the meat of animals and birds, but who does not learn Torah may not eat the meat of animals and birds.
So even in this area, they're making a hierarchical decision. So those who choose to eat meats need to be learning in the way the meat is processed, the shochet, the whole piece about, intention. There's plenty of Hasidic. In fact, my rabbinic thesis was on how to eat, not what to eat, but how to eat. So there's plenty of discussion on like the intention, the covenant that go into that. When I continue on for the italics,
The comments that follow are
hyperbole.
hyperbole, a common rabbinic form of expression. They are counterbalanced by numerous rabbinic statements that call for compassion and love to be extended to all. The rabbis were convinced that life, informed by the Word of God, is on a par with that of animals.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to pick up with
Rabbi Eliezer said, I'm sorry, he didn't say about doing this, right? It is permitted to stab an ignoramus even on the Day of Atonement that falls on Shabbat. His disciples said, but Master, why don't you say slaughter? He said, one needs a blessing, the other doesn't.
So, in other words, to shecht an animal needs a blessing, but to stab an ignoramus does not. Ouch, again.
The verb used for kosher slaughtering is not permitted to slaughter or stab any animal on the Sabbath or Day of Atonement. Rabbi Eliezer said it is forbidden to accompany an ignoramus on a journey. For it is said, for Torah is the source of your life and the length of your days. Deuteronomy 30:20. The ignoramus cares for nothing of his own life, so he cares even less for anyone else's. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, it is permitted to tear apart an ignoramus as well if he was a fish. Rabbi Shmuel bar Isaac said, even from his spine.
So again, remember, this is hyperbole. It's even. We could even do this to this group because there's such problems here. Okay, and Rabbi Akiva,
said,
And remember, Rabbi Akiva was an Am Haaretz until he started studying at age
Age
40.
40.
when I was an ignoramus, I used to say, who will let me get a hold of the disciple so that I may bite him like a donkey? His disciples asked, why did you say? Why didn't you say like a dog? He replied, the donkey bites and breaks bones. The dog bites but doesn't break bones.
Okay, so obviously there's some class issues here. Rabbi Akiva is saying, when I used to be like that, I used to want to get a hold of one of these disciples and just tear him to bits, right? So, in a Bridal Talk,
Rabbi Meyer used to say, if anyone marries a daughter of an ignoramus, it is as if he threw her before a lion. For just as a lion tramples and eats but has no shame, so an ignoramus beats his wife and has sex with no shame. What have you really done on
they are.
non-educated
They're really,
people?
really down on Am Haaretz. Yeah.
A bride taught Rabbi Eliezer used to say, if they don't need us for commerce, they will kill us. Rabbi
Kliya.
taught, if anyone discusses the Torah in the presence of an ignoramus, it is as if he had sex with his fiancée in front of him. And it said, Moses commanded us the Torah as an inheritance. Do not read
Morasha, but Morasa, inheritance and betrothed. So, let me, the little footnote down there,
Yes.
the point is that an ignorant person is not yet ready to understand. Presented with that person Torah before he's prepared is forbidden. Because if one does it, it's like engaging in sex before marriage. So.
What does it take to be ready?
There's a good question. There's a lot, I think that's probably the most excellent question that anybody, has really looked at today. What does it take to be ready to study Torah? So, and on that lovely question, it's after time, and we'll pick up on 157 next week.
And I think you have to look at the definition of the nucleus.
Of Am Haaretz, person of the land.